you're a host, right? You identified the topics that you'd like to be discussed, right?
Yes.
So can you share with everybody the topics that you'd like to be discussed? You, not somebody else. You're the host.
I delegated that.
Oh, you did. Who did you delegate it to?
Me.
My wife.
Your wife. So can you say what the two topics are?
Yes, so the first topic was as a working person here, how do we manage work-life balance when it comes to being satisfied with where we are in our life, what is the measure? And the other topic was for kids, if they have to give exam or if they have to study or if they have to do their everyday duties at school, what can they learn from Bhagavad Gita that they can take away or use it so that they can efficiently perform.
There's a new one.
There's a
There's an add-on. So-
And I follow my wife's direction, so.
Okay, but before you go away, no, don't bring it over. No. Oh, I see.
I want to
Yeah.
pull it.
Oh, okay. But the incense, it's irritating.
I can turn it on.
Can you turn it off? Wow. Look at
Is it
that.
okay?
Yeah, please. There's more to it than irritating, but I won't say it. Carcinogens. The second one was, how much money is enough? That's what I was told.
How do you feel satisfied with, whatever you're making, or people are constantly wondering how much is enough?
More
where
and
do I
more
go?
and more. That one?
More.
Yeah.
I have one more.
No. At the end, because I'll forget. So I'm very familiar with the balance question. And I'm somewhat familiar with the money question. And then the kids in school Bhagavad Gita question is, it depends on the kids. Okay, so I'll say little banners without going too much into the detail. One of the banners with balance is I don't like the question. Because it's a secular picture. Secular means this is what I do for God and this is what I do for others than God. Like my family and the community and my relatives, and there's that's secularism. And Bhagavad Gita and a life of devotion to Krishna is not secular. Rather, it's time management. But balance indicates the two, I call it the two-pocket program. So much for Krishna and so much for me. So much for Krishna and so much for me. Me, Krishna, Krishna. And how do I balance how much goes in this pocket and how much goes in that pocket? Now that's not what the question says, but that's often how people think, bluntly. So Bhagavad Gita's teaching is everything is for Krishna. You have Roshi, you have Snasi, you have Jehosi, Vidasi. What is it that if there's something that you do that's not for Krishna, then don't do it. That's that kind of balance. Just don't do it. End of discussion. Now, if it's a time management question, that's another question. But so, maybe your question is a time management question. In many cases it's not, it's a value question. So, to answer that question, a lot depends upon several things. Where you are in your spiritual trajectory, for someone who's very advanced in their spiritual trajectory, they're more clear about where their needs are in terms of dealing with and responsibly conducting one's life with regard to things that are temporary. Then time is allotted for those things. Bathing, resting, etc. And then job, or for kids it's study and, artha, economic development. How much time do I invest? But even if I'm investing time in economic development, there's one purpose. It's to fulfill the mission of life. Now, go back, and supposing I don't know what the mission of life is. Na te vidu svartakatimni Vishnu, according to Prahlad Maharaj's teaching. Prabhupada quotes that verse hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, because people don't know. There's two things they don't know. They don't know who they are, and they don't know the goal of life. And then it becomes a struggle. And it's an endless struggle even if they get answers. It's a struggle. This is how you balance your time, dad to dad. Now they stand on this side and that side, and the fulcrum is in the middle, and they lose their balance. Always. Because something new comes up, and then everything goes over to that something new, and there's no purpose or direction, or you know what ballast of a ship is? B-A-L-A-S-T. Ships that go out to sea, the sea gets really fierce sometimes, not just big waves. So there has to be a lot of weight at the bottom of the ship. Sometimes they have this big hull that goes way down, or they put a lot of weight in the bottom of the ship so that the ship won't tilt too much. Ballast. Like, what's really important to me, the bottom of an iceberg, not just the tip of the iceberg, or the thing that's just below the surface of the water, below the tip of the iceberg, but the very bottom of the iceberg. That's what most people don't know. They don't even ask. They don't have a clue. It's not like not part of their life. So for proper time management, you have to have a sense of what's really important to me. And as you get a clearer picture, so I said, where you are in your spiritual trajectory. I may have a lofty goal of what's important to me, but my needs may be down here. In order for me to live a sustained day-to-day life, I have to know what's sustainable, what my needs are. So, somebody that's very spiritually elevated, their needs are not going to be calculated the same as somebody who's not so spiritually elevated. It's a time management question. So let's say somebody begins. You invest this much time. But because it's really important to you, you make sure you do it this much time, and it's not like squeezed by all the other things that always come up that are also important. You put it in the first part of the day. Here's for me, anyway, the classic time management model. The model of the glass jar, and then over here there's some big rocks, and over there's some medium rocks and small rocks and pebbles and sand. You know that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't know the answer to the question, it won't all fit. But if you know the answer, you put the big rock or big rocks in first. It'll all fit. That, the jar is the day, or your week, or whatever the month, or some measure of time. And then you manage your time based on what's really important to you, not just which takes the most time. What's really important to you, that goes in first. Because if you don't put it in first, you might get squeezed out by other things that are pressing on you as urgent but not really important. Time management talk. So, so if I'm a beginner on a spiritual path, at least in this lifetime, maybe in my previous lifetime I was doing differently than this lifetime, but I begin here, and I value it, and I just don't move from there. And then gradually, incrementally, I move that measure of time that the rock starts to grow. And I find, lo and behold, I waste time. And I waste a lot of time, and each of us have our time wasters, but the internet is a really big one. Really big one. I mean, so and you just eliminate things that are time wasters. So it's time management, leveraged by what's really important to you. And you put that what's really important to you in the very beginning, because otherwise it won't happen. Or if it happens, it's late at night, and it's very poor quality, and you know it. So, first thing is time management. So I could go further. I use this phrase, blocks of time. How much for this, how much for that, how much for that, and you make a plan. And then you don't just look the other way after you made a plan, you follow the plan. And then you revise the plan as you need to, but stick with the plan. And then periodically can be different for different people. Some persons I know who I have very high regard for, every quarter, Bill Gates used to do it once a year, just go off somewhere and get in quiet space and consider what's really important to me. And then you make blocks of time to achieve those things that are important to you. And it can be revised, that's okay. I mean, some things aren't going to be revised, but some things you leave to the side and some other things you bring in. It's time management 101. It's not balance. I mean, at least it's from my perspective. It's everything come to the point where everything is for Krishna. And if I'm not there yet, then if it's important to me, that's the source of the question, balance between spiritual and the worldly part of my life. Assuming it's important to you, that's why you're asking the question, then how do I grow it? Keep asking, is it really important to me? How important is it to me? Now this thing of how to be satisfied with however much one is earning. It's the modes of nature. With Rajogun, it's never enough. There's no such thing as enough. Dushparena analena cha. Burns like fire. When is enough fuel into a fire, it's burned enough. It burns more. Whatever everyone has, it's always more. Something that you and Ajivana assisted and with a group of others, putting together some plan for overcoming negative emotions, had to do with the sense of the negative emotion of failure. It gets to how much money and be satisfied with it. What's success? I'll share two things with you. A girl that's in a devotee family, she finished her undergraduate, she, for the last 2 years, she's been spun out feeling, she just shared with me, I'm a failure. This last 2 years has just been, nothing has worked out. Graduate school, I was thinking this and thinking that, nothing's working out, and then it's in relationships, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like heading towards depression. So we just did a little, time out. And I asked, what's really important to you? And, questions that we learn when we learn how to give guidance to people. So, like, what gives you energy and you feel you're not a failure? What gifts has Krishna given you? So, it turns out that the failure, one of the big failures was with career, so much money, so much time, so much energy, so much this, so much that, and it wasn't working out. And, so 4 or 5, communications later, I was just thinking about money. Should I be a lawyer? But mom and dad are saying IT, but I don't really like, I can get a job and get money, but I don't like IT. And I know a lot of people that do IT and they don't like it. The money is, they can't, now it's too late. They're already locked into, what their career is, and they can't do a U-turn. And so, I just asked, what time have you been happy? When you were the happiest? What were you doing that were the elements that were there that made you really happy? And it was very forthcoming, and so I have an opportunity in 2 months training, I can do that. Said, well, you may not do that for the rest of your life, but it's important to you, right? Yeah. And you may not earn a whole bunch of money, right? Right. But instead of being depressed, why don't you do it? Gives you enlightenment and energy, and then that training and that experience is with you, and then you go the next step. So just take one step at a time. He said, actually, the conclusion was, I wasn't really headed for depression. I was just not recognizing Krishna's indication of what's really important to me. I didn't get the big picture. I was just seeing the little threads that were not part of the big picture. Or another, this is just anecdotal, but to illustrate. There's this young fellow who just finished his master's degree at Georgia Tech, and he got one job that is right there in Georgia with where all of his association, right in Atlanta, where all of his association is, and it's a very solid company, and it's a very substantial 6-figure job. But he got another offer from Amazon that's $15,000 more, and he's pulling on his chin. And he knows he's not going to have the spiritual network association in this other place. He's got everything there. So what's really important? I mean, I'm going to have a discussion with him hopefully later today. Just ask him. If you want to make a decision, ask what's really important to you. Is money what's really important to you? So part of this presentation, the yoga instructor from Boston, the Mataji, Chatamayi, something like that. She said that fellow, Conway or whatever his name is.
The doctor?
No. He said, my wish is that people make all the possible money they can so they can learn. That's not what real happiness is. Huh?
Jim Carrey. Yeah.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey. I never heard the guy's name before. She said, he's a demigod. He's a comedian that people look up to. And he turns people towards, whatever he thinks. He's not in charge of spiritual consciousness. The attraction for sense gratification rises. like a toilet bowl that's clogged. And you flush and it just goes all over the floor. That visual image. So, sorry about that. Don't be, go, strive for the position of engaging with objects in such a manner that the consciousness behind engaging with those objects is not for sense gratification, but is for the pleasure of Krishna. Give a little example. Really easy one. Kids like music. And because they like music, devotional kids, they like kirtan. And the thing they like about kirtan is the hanging out together and doing music. Not so much, Krishna. Honest. And, and so an important training for the children is do it for Krishna. And they'll nod their head yes, and then they'll get into the social interaction and the musicality and honing their skills, whatever it is, and becoming really proficient, and they have a good time together, because music is a natural thing that people do together in all cultures of the world. So the training for ourselves, we're not children anymore, so training for ourselves is those things that we do. You're cooking and you're caring for your family and this thing and that, because you do that for Krishna. And when you do a thing for Krishna, the agitation of the senses for more subsides, because you're satisfied. The other, you're never satisfied. Never. Never. Never? Never. Dushparena analena cha, for the third time. Burns like fire. So how to be satisfied with what one is earning is to be satisfied within. And satisfied within, it's a Bhagavad Gita message, but it's what a yogi experiences, or a bhakti yogi experiences. The satisfaction of satisfying the beloved, Krishna. It starts with knowing who we are. Then getting some idea from reading Bhagavad Gita and associating with devotees to understand what Krishna is, and through the medium of devotional service, not just ringing a bell and waving some incense stick, but not to belittle the activities of devotion, but it's the consciousness behind those activities. Not just be vegetarian, but offer your food to Krishna. And offer your food to Krishna. Please accept. This is yours, and it's been prepared for you. Please accept. And take the prasad of Krishna. So a life of the cultivation of devotion brings that happiness within. When the happiness within, from drishtva nivartate. That struggle with the senses, and when is enough, it subsides, because there's happiness within. And then you can make decisions about this or that based upon other factors besides, more is not enough. How do I hear a prisoner of the more is not enough? It's nice sounding, but it's another thing to live it and cultivate it. But that's the solution. And regular Shravanam Kirtanam is not just helpful, it's essential. So that, back to the time management question, the big rock that should go in first. And then the third question, youth? Depends on the youth. Well, what are principles gets filled with principles, yet takes knowing the youth and what resonates with them. My experience is different things resonate with different youth. So find out what resonates. Something that Srila Prabhupada consistently did over and over and over and over and over and over and over was helping the audiences that he was interacting with understanding the eternality of the soul, and that's who we really are. So knowledge of who we really are helps with detachment of who we are not. And so a big thing in youth, and one of the many big things is peer pressure. The other kids are doing something and they don't want to miss out on what other kids are doing, or the other kids are like, bully them or tease them because they're not doing things they're doing. It's just, Maya's trick to get everybody heading off the cliff with things that really shouldn't be done. So having, an acceptance of the value of knowing who I am, even I may not have it so clear yet, knowing who I am, really important. Because that's protection from so many pressures of having nothing to do with who you are. It just has something to do with the latest fad of sense gratification. Or experimenting with something. Experimenting with technology, or experimenting with drugs, or experimenting with social behaviors, or experimenting with some new app, or experimenting with something. And if there's a value of knowing who you really are, that's protection. I mean, it sounds maybe oversimplistic, but if that's something that a young person can understand, the Bhagavad Gita will help you. How to be a teacher of that one? You have to live it. Then you can teach it. We could take some time for discussion on those three topics or go to your fourth topic.
So, I've seen in life when people go through some hardships, right? Some disease or
So many
something
things. So many hardships.
They realize only once while they get the hardship, then they remember God.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Then
When the hardship's over, it's thanks a lot, see you later.
Yeah, lot of
Yes, sure.
lot of times.
Sure.
Right. There has to, me myself, I would say I have gone through some health issues too, and I have recovered, and my last issue I went through did change some of my perspective. As I was going through it, I was in a mode where I was thinking, what is my purpose of my life?
Good.
Right? what am I gonna do different after this?
Good. And
Um,
then,
I'm still finding it. I'm still trying to find it. So I'm thinking, um, like you said, just occurred to me, as you said, um, what in my life had made me the most happiest, right? Um, Coming out of those issues or failures and coming back up is where I found happiness. And some of them was just because the people around me were had that positive energy which helped me come up. I think that was one of the things, the people's the people who are around me, their strength, uh, and I would like to at some point do the same. That's what I think would be my purpose of life. That's how I am looking at it.
okay, I'm gonna expand picture a little bit, if that's okay. Anything you, how to say this appropriately? Anything that you pick as a goal of life that's temporary isn't enduring. Even if you achieve it, or don't achieve it, it's not enduring. What's the fellow's name again? Jim Carrey?
Okay.
May you achieve all of that. My wish is, may people achieve all of the things that they're expecting to achieve so they'll realize the happiness isn't there. If it's temporary. Asat and sat. Nasate vijate bhavo nam bhavo vijate sataha. It's like, Bhagavad Gita 101, chapter 2. Ubayor api drishtondras tvanios tattvadarshi. A tattvadarshi is not interested in asat. They're interested in sat. So some people say if there's not asat, then what is there? This came in a discussion yesterday evening, home program. If that's gone, then what's left? Because there's no clue, and therefore it's all temporary. It's not all temporary. We're addicted to the temporary, and our measure of success and happiness is according to the temporary, but it's not. That's not what real happiness is, and it's not real success is, and it's not the real mission of life. So do a little reset, and I'll take it away from you and put it over there somewhere, but it applies to you. I had this really interesting exchange in Chengdu, the city in China. And there's a lady who's a yoga studio owner, and she was the hostess for me speaking to her staff of 35 people. And they had different uniforms. Some were the teachers, some were the business people, and some were the hospitality people. They had different colored uniforms. But that was her staff, 35 people. And one of her staff members is a yoga teacher, that's one of the 3 categories, and she's a devotee. So she recommended the teacher that the students all have a weekly Bhagavad Gita discussion. So she said, great idea. So then I came along after all of this. And we had a 3-part thing, 3 seminar session thing, that she picked the topics. And one of the topics she picked was how to It was one of the negative emotion things, overcoming the negative emotion of depression. So I asked her in a class, why did you pick this for your students? She said that my experience with these are bright young people, I've handpicked them, but they don't really know what happiness is. And I know that I don't know what real happiness is. And I want to know what real happiness is, because that's a way to overcome the negative emotion of depression. Because I was looking for happiness where it wasn't really happiness. And they are too. And then the question answers that she was so open. And later, they started sharing their expectation for happiness that didn't match reality. And, so their struggle. This is like in a forum of 35 people opening their hearts in the middle of me, because that's their yoga that's the owner lady. So later she wanted to have a private discussion, and the bottom line is, what's the next step? So when I was a little girl, I had this sense, there's a mission in my life. So I thought, I'll do well in school. So I did really well in school, and I found that wasn't really my mission in life. So then, let me be a leader. So I became a leader. I was really good at being a leader. And that wasn't my mission in life. It didn't bring real happiness. So let me do well in business. But, lead also and do well in business. And I did that. And then I was thinking, I need to serve people. I heard this little interview with Barack Obama where he said, that's what turned his life around. And then I'm at the stage where, that's not it either. There's a happiness in serving people. We all know that one. There's a happiness in, the turnaround in bad circumstances to good circumstances, in the support system, and you're down, you go up. But it's temporary, because it goes back down again. And it's not eternal. It's not who we really are. So I said, so you're coming to me, so I don't know if you're ready to hear this, but I'll say, you're a teacher, and teachers need to teach who you really are. So your mission is to learn who you really are and to teach others who they really are. Really simple. And it's part of who you are is to know who you aren't. But that's not sufficient. You have to know who you are. Because she was a Buddhist. You're not material desire. Because desire, according to Buddhism, brings suffering. So what's a life that's without desire? A twinkling star. It didn't even, not even that, because that's doing something. You need to know who you are. You need later on, she wrote through her translator, what you said is right. I could say that to her because she was a bright lady. She had been through this transition, that transition, and tried it, and it worked, but like Jim Carrey, it wasn't real happiness. And she knew it wasn't happiness for her. It's not the same for her. So, not to do for others what isn't sufficient for you, that's not sufficient for others. Sadhu or a monk or whatever the language might be. You have to be a realized soul. That's the human mission. That's the mission of life. And it starts there, it keeps going. Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. You know the verse? Bhagavad Gita. Brahmabhuta, first symptom, Prasanatma. Happiness within. Na sochati, na kanksati, no hankering, lamenting. Because prasanatma, there's nothing that you need, nothing you're lamenting. You're not in the modes of ignorance and passion. Passion is hankering and ignorance is lamenting. Modes of nature gone. Prasanatma. Samak sarveshu bhuteshu. Sama sarveshu bhut. Seeing equally all living entities. And there's two layers of that. They're matters making up the bodies of all living entities, although they're in different species. It's the same Krishna's energy that's making up the corpuscles of this body and that of an animal, etc., etc. The earth, water, fire, air, ether. It's just, and then there's the soul. The soul's in this body, that body. But the soul, so samak sarveshu bhuteshu, mad bhaktim, my devotion, labhate, you obtain, param, transcendental bhakti. So we're not there yet. We still don't know who we are. And therefore we're not prasanatma, and we're hankering and lamenting, we're not seeing all living entities equally, and we're not in the parabhakti stage either. But that's the mission. Punar janma na. No more birth. Mami ti. Come to him. That's the mission. That's the permanent one. Now you can have temporary ones, that's fine. Those are goals, that's not mission. Life's mission. Like having a good time management plan so that I can grow what's really important to me. What's really important to me is this. I don't want for others either. When I go to colleges, I say, if you don't hear anything else I'm saying, hear this one thing. Don't be at the end of the conveyor belt and you still don't know. Don't be so busy being successful, you don't take time out to know who you really are. Beyond all the temporary layers and layers and layers of who you really aren't. Don't be in that place. That's very sad. That's failure. Success is you're on the path. You're moving toward, even if you don't reach the goal, you're on the path. Because there's the lighthouse and you're out at sea and the waves are moving and there's the lighthouse. I'm heading for the lighthouse. I want to get to where there's shelter. And Bhagavad Gita is a resource to help do that. So, whether it's the youth, or whether it's mom and dad, or whether it's whoever it is, the kids in college, and the people in China, and people in Afghanistan, and wherever they might be. It's universal truth. And the complexity of the web of the material energy capturing us is very complicated. The mission of life is to know who you are. And have a lifestyle that matches who you really are. Here they are. Keep coming down the stairs. Any discussion on these 4 topics from our host and hostess or anybody else? Yes.
I'm just going to take a little bit of time to formulate my question accurately, if you don't mind.
Okay, you got the time.
So, Maharaj, you spoke about a jar and how you have all the big rocks that need to go in, right? Essentially, those are the ones that are important to you? So this is gonna be a two-pronged question.
Well, they're all important. The sand is also important. But there's some that are more important.
Right.
Okay.
So these big rocks which okay, so let's say I evaluate my week, my life on a quarterly basis or whatever and say that this is important to me, and spirituality, obviously, I feel the need that I need to get onto this path to know who I am. So I'm gonna make time for this, and that's one of the big rocks I place in. That is the
First
one.
thing. That goes in first.
Yes.
Okay. It's important.
So my question is, I have noticed that that's the only thing I get to make a decision on. All the other big rocks, right, that are there, are all dictated by someone else. I need to do this for my family, I need to do this for my parents, I need to do this
Okay.
for my work.
Then, if you ask yourself, do I really want to do this? I mean, some things we do because we already made decisions to do them. You got married and you have kids, so you don't say, well, I don't think I want kids anymore.
That's true, yeah.
Go find another home somewhere. So then, we're taking responsibility for our past choices.
Okay.
And that's something I choose to do. I choose to take responsibility for my choices, my past choices, and the good and the bad in the mix. Now, as we go forward in making new, fresh choices, let me make the right kind of choices of how I interact with my my family, my children, my relatives, my this and my that. Those are free will choices that I can make. I'm not going to abdicate responsibility for my past choices. And that's a choice.
Yeah.
Because somebody can bail.
Yeah. Saying this is important.
Yeah, and say, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
People do that. I'm checking out.
Yeah. Yep.
Or even, not necessarily legally or formally, they just check out.
Mentally.
Yeah, I'm absent. Don't tread on me. I'm not going to respond. So, do consciously. So,
So one application point for me is, I like when you said, all these other rocks that you have, just make answer, think about what you really want to do.
and they're important.
And, yeah.
And if there's something, like let's say, having too many pairs of shoes, you give some shoes away. I don't need 4 telephones, 4 mobile phones. Let me just have whatever it is,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever it is. Then you'll simplify. And then those things that you do have, it's for Krishna service, and so you invest, what you need to invest in to make sure that it's used nicely in Krishna service. That's the forward-going choices. Spring cleaning.
Yeah, no, thanks, Maharaj.
Okay.
I had another question. So you were talking about how youth and kids have peer pressure, right? I
Yeah.
feel that's not a question just for kids, it's even with adults.
Of course.
Where
But your question was about the youth. So, peer pressure.
peer pressure. So what happens is that peer pressure also plays a role when I try to teach my 8-year-old daughter about certain things.
Of course.
Like I feel I'm being a hypocrite when I try to balance both ends of the world.
Then
I
tell
can-
them. Tell them. I be honest. Kids, mom is caught. And if you're honest, they'll be honest with you. And if you're a hypocrite, they may not say it, but they'll know it, and they'll behave accordingly. And maybe in your presence, they'll, say yes, and in your absence, they'll do something else. So you haven't passed on character because you've been a hypocrite. But if you anyway, stop being, as much as you can, stop being a hypocrite, and speak and act according to your sustainable capacity to do so.
How do do I catch myself? Is it because it all
Practice and honesty. You know, one of the, this is something I learned from Jiva Goswami. You've heard his name before? Jiva Goswami. One of the first, not one of, the first symptom of the result of offenses, which is anarthas in the heart, is the anartha of dishonesty with others and with oneself. That's the hypocrite. So, go back to the root, not just, beat yourself up because you have this tendency thing going on. What's the root? It's offense. So strive to overcome offense. Cut the root and the weed stops. Clip the weed and the weed will grow again because the root is there. Offense. So learn what they are, and it's not going to happen. So, and strive to hear and chant and be in the association of those who are similarly striving. There are persons that we know are similarly striving. I'm respectful to everyone, and we're particularly looking for the strength beyond our own strength to overcome our own weaknesses from people that have strength, just like this statement. We have devotee association, right? Same with our children. Good association. Anything else? Yes?
Maharaj, is there a barometer to know, suppose I have started the path, the Krishna conscious path, what we are talking about, is there a barometer to know where I am? Whether I
Sure.
really moved at all or I am...
Sure. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but it's also Srimad Bhagavatam. The plus and the minus. The plus is attraction for the topics of Krishna, and the minus is detachment from frivolous, capricious, whimsical, sense-gratifying conduct, just like time wasters. The attraction for asat, subsiding, and the attraction for sat, increasing. It's a barometer. And if we're in this self-deception thing, we're not going to read it properly. Or let's say it, a little more gently. If we're all influenced by the modes of nature, and the modes of nature, according to the Bhagavatam, color the mind. Karmatmaka yena sharira bandha. And so we see things according to the modes of nature. We think it is the way it is because the modes of nature are filtering what we see. We're not seeing what really is. So the barometric reading is going to be, autobiographical, according to the modes of nature that we're moved by. So we need some, other third-party persons, well-wisher persons, to help us read the barometer. But we also need to strive, as well, we need to strive towards, not self-berating kind of evaluation of the barometer, but an honest evaluation of the barometer, barometric reading. How much attraction is there? Now, even if there's no attraction, it doesn't mean discontinue the devotional activity. Rather, it's an indicator. If I'm looking sincerely, how can I improve? And you find some ways that you can improve, and you apply those ways that you can improve. And unsteady bhakti is you apply for a little while, and then it kind of fades. Then it hurts again, and so then we apply it more diligently again. And then the hurt goes away, and we become complacent again. It's just part of the territory of unsteady bhakti. but continue with faith over time. And then that's the barometer. Swanustataksha dharmasya samsatya paritoshan vishvaksena kata ruchi syamahat sevaya vipra. Those verses in second chapter of first canto will help address this question you're asking.
Thank
A little series. Canto 1, chapter 2, starting with like text 8, going forward. Okay. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki
you.
So, Mr. Romapada Swami Maharaj.
Radha Kunja Bihari Mahaprasad in the box ki jai. Was the Detroit people.